Over the next 3 days, leaders, diplomats, activists and business people all gathering in Munich for an annual security conference. TRT World's editor-at-large, Yusuf Erim, is in the city, and he's spoken ahead of the opening session to Ian Brzezinski, who's a former US Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Europe and NATO Policy.
This Munich Security Conference is, of course, going to be focusing on Ukraine, Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. It's going to focus, of course, on growing tensions in the Indo-Pacific caused by China, to a certain degree, the growing violence in the Middle East. But I think the dominant issue of this conference is going to be rising European concern about America's commitment to Europe. And that's what Kamala Harris will be, as Vice President of the United States, addressing tomorrow. She's going to come here to reassure Europeans that our commitment to the transatlantic relationship is strong and enduring.
A U.S. election in November, possible shift in U.S. policy in Ukraine. Are European countries hedging their bets? Are they concerned, do you think?
They're very concerned. And, of course, former President Trump's statements this last week threatening to encourage Russia to attack those who don't spend 2% of their GDP on defense was totally irresponsible and has catalyzed European concerns here. But Europeans have to take a long view on the United States and its commitment. If Trump were to be elected, it would add to a rocky relationship, but wouldn't end the transatlantic relationship. The transatlantic relationship can't be killed by Trump. It can only be killed by Trump with the participation and encouragement of the Europeans. Europeans have agency in this relationship. Let's not forget, they bring $20 trillion in GDP to the table. They actually bring a fairly capable military capacity to the table. They have to take the long view on the transatlantic relationship and not solely focus on Trump.
From the other side of the Atlantic, are you seeing the Europeans exert more strategic autonomy, especially vis-a-vis the Ukraine policy?
No, actually, I see a tightening integration over the last 4 years in U.S. and European security policies. This, of course, is very much evidenced in their support to Ukraine. Look at the contact group that met just yesterday, pushing forward more assistance to the Ukrainians. There's collaboration on the economic front to support Ukraine. There's collaboration on the security front to support Ukraine. And there's actually been a bolstering of NATO defense capabilities, which, of course, enhances the security situation here in Europe.
What are you expecting U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to highlight in their keynote addresses?
They're going to underscore, of course, the importance, the urgency of supporting Ukraine, ensuring Ukraine wins this war, defeats Russian aggression. And Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, will also underscore America as an enduring, reliable partner of Europe.
From a diplomacy perspective, what are the prospects of peace looking like? I know we talk a lot about the military aspect, the support, the military aid. Is there still openings, or is there a space for diplomacy to be expanded?
I don't think there's very much room for diplomacy, unfortunately. There's no sign from Moscow that it's any way seriously considering a legitimate end to this war. This war is going to only end when the Ukrainians regain all their territory that was unjustly seized by the Russians. But this is going to require more political will on part of the West, more military support to the Ukrainians, stronger economic sanctions on Russia, and I would add, very, very important, to clearly put Ukraine on the path to NATO membership, because that is the only thing that Putin understands as taking Ukraine off the geopolitical table.
Will achieving these objectives require NATO or American boots on the ground in Ukraine?
Not necessarily, but it will require more military support to the Ukrainians, better equipment with more capacity, less restrictions on their use. It's going to require much more aggressive economic sanctions on the Russians.